Okay.
All right. Call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, quick reminder here too, Councilor, just speak into your microphone so the light's lit up so that folks at home can hear as well. We've got a long meeting today, but we'll get through this. We've got an approval of the memorandum of the September 21st, 2020 regular meeting. A copy has been posted. Any questions, councilors?
Move to adopt.
Second. First from Councilor Choi. Who's the second? From Councilor Plunkett. Thank you for raising the hand. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The memorandum of the September 21st, 2020 regular town council meeting is approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we have requests to speak. Is there anyone in the audience here that would like to speak on any topic? Please feel free to go up to the dais there, and I need your, do we need to do a request to speak cards, Amy?
We have some. I have not got a thing turned in.
We'll have you fill out a card at the end. We'll sort of do a reverse here. 3 minutes, and if you just say your name and address for the record, and after that point, I'll start timing you. I'll give you a 1-minute warning if you start going on.
Okay. My name is Brian Hall. My address is 631 Lakeview Drive in Zionsville. And I am working on a makerspace project for the Zionsville area and Lebanon. And we've done a number of things with the community involving makerspace. We've 3D printed some face shields for Witham Hospital and done some robotics workshops at the library. And I just wanted to introduce myself to the council and say that we're trying to get more support from community members and just kind of reach out to you all, and would love to connect with you, talk with you if you're interested in the makerspace for Zionsville.
Very good. Thank you. Very interesting. Any other in person? I don't see any hands. Any virtual?
Yes,
Amy?
we have one virtual, Mr. Triscari, Craig Triscari.
Very good.
And should we come in on and just went to where? Yep.
My name is Craig Triscari. I live at 3270 Paddock Road. As of October 2020.
Mr. Triscari, if you're speaking, hold on 1 second. We can't hear you very well. I want to make sure you're being able to be heard. Pardon our trying to do this the first time. We have to.
Where's the volume? Oh. Try that.
Okay, if you don't mind starting over, we'll see if that's better.
Okay, my name is Craig Triscari. I'm at 3270 Paddock Road. Does that work?
That's faint, but I think enough. Councilors, can you hear?
I'm old. I can't hear.
I can't hear it.
Is there any way to make that louder? There's no way to make that louder. Can TV be moved closer so folks can hear it? We'll make sure that he's heard. Well, can we do it just while he's speaking and then move it back? Is that okay? Just so folks can hear. We just really zoom in on Jason there. That'd be great.
I've got good ears.
Yeah, I can hear.
Try again.
Craig, can you just do a quick sound check there for us?
Yeah, sure. My name is Craig Triscari, 3270 Paddock Road.
All right, I think we're good. Feel free to start at your convenience.
So as of October 2020, Van Truss has still failed to run that 8-inch water line into Saratoga after the December 2018 ordinance passing requiring Van Truss to run when they set up their water. Van Truss is in violation, total disregard to Zionsville official commitment letter. It seems this company is incapable of holding to a commitment, and this board has failed to enforce our own public commitments to the community of Perry Township and Zionsville Rural. It is nearly 1 year from since when Van Truss was allowed by Zionsville to get water in violation of that commitment letter to Saratoga. The Van Trust lawyer told this board that water was not contingent on phase 2, but has continuously tied it to phase 2. Van Trust stated in public to this board they had the numbers required to put the lines immediately in, and they still have failed to do so. Zero information has been provided to the community for their significant violation. Additionally, you need to review your current construction ordinances. They are designed for short-term building based on noise issues. We have problems with noise at 5 a.m. in the morning and early Saturday morning. Since this construction will be years in the making, you need to fix the construction noise ordinance issue in that area to reflect the long-term construction issues within that area. Finally, Van Trust needs to put in the proper size trees in the dirt mound, and Zionsville should enforce their own laws and ordinance commitment. It's come to my attention that Van Trust has filed a different tree size in there, but the December 2018, and I send this to the president of the board, their commitment as well as the lawyers, both on both sides, commitment to the size of those trees. Van Trust, I guess, decides that they're going to lie about that as well. If you can buy, if you plan on buying a home within Zionsville address, be very cautious. The leadership doesn't abide by a comprehensive plan, nor do they care about your property value. Homeowners on 421 or near the highway look to reduce your taxes to Zionsville based on reckless development. This leadership, to include the town council team, has provided zero value added to the greater Zionsville rural community along 421 and have failed to enforce their own ordinance and laws currently as it relates to Perry Township and Van Trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Triscari. I know we've heard from Mr. Triscari quite a lot. I just wanted to clarify some things for the council here, just because I wanted to do my own digging. It's really for your education. A commitment when it comes to a development is a commitment that will be done on a timeline if it is defined. The commitments that Mr. Triscari keeps referring to have no timeline, so they just need to be completed by the time the project is complete. And if they are not complete, we can withhold the certificate of occupancy for that. So when he keeps talking about they are in violation of the commitments, they are not in violation of the commitments because they have not occupied the building yet. The developer has never indicated to us that they will back out of those commitments. They don't have the opportunity to back out of those commitments. That water will be coming to that area. Also, as it relates to the trees, I spoke to Mr. Triscari today, who is insistent that there's 8-foot trees that were committed to on this project. There is no such commitment. We cannot find that commitment. The planning department cannot have that commitment. In the commitment document, it does not reference tree sizes. It only references density and types of trees. In addition to the landscape plan that is filed by the developer, those only show 5 to 6 foot trees, which have been installed. In addition, Mr. Triscari referenced the December 2018 meeting, in which case 8-foot trees were presented by the developer. That is not the case. I found the original presentation by the developer and there's no mention of size of trees. This request to speak is something that is granted to the community, is not a requirement of the community. And quite frankly, if speakers are coming in and calling developers liars, lawyers liars, this council liars, staff liars, the mayor liars, that is something that may not continue. So I am open, I'm sure this council's open to any actual proof that something is not happening, but conjecture and not looking at the actual documents that we've submitted is starting to get not acceptable for me. So I just wanted to clarify that as we continue to have these public speaking. Any other public speakers, Amy?
No, do not have any members.
Very good. We have a presentation from ZYSA.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the council, and to give us this opportunity to share with you what ZYSA has planned for the future. Now, this could be a little challenging, seeing that most people don't understand me when I don't have a mask on. So I brought along with me our president, Mr. Mike Bandick, and he will do any translation that you may need. ZYSA has been around for 40 years. As you will, those of you who've been in the community may have come through the system or have had kids. I know Craig has kids in the system, and we are very proud of the fact that we serve over 2,000 kids, and mainly from Zionsville, but from the surrounding community. Sorry if this slips down on me. I'll keep adjusting it as much as I can. The things that we are very proud of is our tournament. Our tournament that, and any of you who have been out this weekend and live around that area, apologize for the traffic congestion that we cause. But it is the biggest sporting event in Boone County. We are the biggest sports organization in Boone County. And our tournament is well established. This is the 21st year of Oktoberfest, and had a really good year, and thanks to all the volunteers and help. The other thing is our state champions, the boys state champions, Zionsville High School, have all come through the ZYSA system. And this is something that we're very proud of, that they played all their home games at ZYSA, the boys and the girls. The other things that we have done that have really established ourselves is our partnership with Ball State Sports Psychology Department. We have been working with them now for the past 3 years and have established a criteria and a system for really developing young people and what they need to get out of youth soccer. Also with them Health Services, Nike, Indiana Soccer, they're all involved in helping us develop the proper youth development program. What we need to do is we need to improve our facilities. And why I'm here today is to talk about the safety aspects of the facilities. The one thing that is a big concern of ours is that we do not have any fencing on the roadway on 700. There is a number of kids that live in Stonegate, ride their bikes. And as much as we try to get them to come down and cross a safety area, they're going to ride right across the road as soon as they get to the road. And it's something that's a huge concern. So what we want to do is build a fence line, build a crosswalk in there, so that way we can make this just a safer environment, which is our #1 goal at ZYSA. We want a safe, positive, and fun environment. The second egress, right, as you see it on the plans there, right next to the crosswalk, is again, if those of you who've been there and are all leaving, as soon as the rainstorm comes and everybody's leaving at the same time, having only one entrance and exit is a huge challenge. So we want to add that second egress in there. Not easy to see in the plans there, but we want to add a pick-up and drop-off lane. Also, if you come to ZYSA, you will see that it's not as safe and as effective as we would like it to be. And by putting in a lane between the parking and the chat field there, we will be able to make it a much, much easier drop-off and pick-up environment. The other, and again, on the back side of it, we want to put a concrete pathway so that the EMTs and any of the medical services have easy access to the back side of the complex. Sorry, go the other way. This is just another layout. You see the pathway back there. You see the slip lane between the chat field and the parking lot. As any capital improvements are made, there is a huge price tag. Now, on the top of that, you see the 1.4 million. That is because we would like to turf the chat field, but this is not what I'm looking at today. I'm looking at the safety enhancements, those things that I talked about to make this community and the involvement of the city towards that. As you can see, the price tag on that is about 700,000. I'd like you to give me all of it, but I'll take any of it. As you can see, how we're going to finance this. It is our mission and goal is for every dollar we will take or add $1 for every $2 we get in capital fund raised. So our commitment to this whole project is 1.2 million over 10 years to improve that whole facility. We're looking for help from the cities of Zionsville and Whitestown, as we are right on the border. We are actually in Zionsville, okay, but right up to Whitestown. The Zionsville Community School Corporation, who we have met with, and they again play all their games there, and we have a good partnership right now. We're looking for additional help. Local foundations, local businesses, and anybody else who is willing to contribute. With all of that said, and I hope I've been clear and you can understand me, I'll take any questions that you may have towards any of these things I just said.
Councilors, questions?
I do have a quick question. I noticed on there that was from May of 2000, or the rendering was from May of 2019. Is this something you presented before to this group? Because I haven't heard it this year. Is this something you've asked from the town? Or is this, since May of 2019, you kind of been putting all your ducks together?
Yeah, we went and decided we needed to get some plans on paper. And then once I put the plans on paper, I went and talked with the previous mayor, and he liked what we were doing, and he was looking for support. End of the year came along, and I met with the new mayor in earlier in the year, and with the hope of moving forward. Then COVID hit, and so we just shelved it all. We started our improvements back in 2019.
Okay.
We have already put about 150,000 into the fields last year. But again, everything went on hold for this year due to COVID. And so now that hopefully COVID is passing us by, we can look at what we're going to do now in 2021.
And I believe we had budgeted 50,000, is that right? Yeah,
Correct.
50,000 for this year. And did anybody reach out to you? Because I did notice that in the claims that the 50,000 is in the claims for this meeting. So that'll be paid, assuming that the claims are approved at the end of the meeting. So, but I didn't know if anybody had reached out to let you know that those were back on the for approval.
Yeah, I got an email last week asking me for a W-9. I got an indication that if we were submitting a W-9, that something must be happening.
All right, thank you.
Good.
Do you know, you mentioned Oktoberfest was your largest tournament. Do you know how many teams, how many athletes, how many people you have come into the community for that tournament?
Yes, last year we had 250 teams, which equates with about 16 kids on average per team. That's about 3,600, and then you double up with parents and grandparents. It's about 10,000 people in the facilities. It's nuts.
Yeah.
This year, because of COVID and working with the Boone County Health Department, we have to restrict it. They said there's no way that we can do social distancing, which we couldn't last year. And this year we restricted it to 190 teams, which equated to about 8,000. Now, we even feel it may have been less than that this year because we noticed there wasn't the grandparents, the one that came. And we have done that purposely. We have requested that people limit the amount of family members they brought with them this year. But I think that as we go forward and our balancing act of, I think 250 is too many, 192 we can handle. I think we'll end up with 225, 230. We do sell out every year. So I don't think that number will be.
And is that a one-day tournament, a 2 or 3 day tournament?
It's 3 days. We start on Friday evening and all day Saturday and Sunday.
So, and a lot of these tournament, or a lot of these teams from all over Indiana or all over the country?
All over, they came from Michigan, St. Louis, Missouri, Kentucky, and I think there was 1 or 2 teams from Illinois.
Nice.
Where do they all park?
The beauty actually where we are, we have our own parking, we have Z West across the street,
Yeah.
Grace Church allows us use theirs, and Boone Meadow. And the other thing that we did with the parking lots is we marked them in a map and we sent it to each team and said, this is your parking lot and this is where you're going to play the one that was closest to their games. And so, with 250 teams, it's a challenge.
Do you currently have a crosswalk right now from Z West over?
We don't have a crosswalk currently. What we designed one
Well, you know, I know
for the
that.
tournament.
That's very,
Yes,
See,
no,
because
for
I
the
don't know how to
tournament, we
do that.
designed one right there where
Okay.
that is,
yes.
and we man it, and we and we work with our volunteers to do that because, otherwise there could be a serious accident.
You may have said this already, but how long has ZYSA been around?
You see back there, it's 41 years this year. We had a birthday party last year, had it up front. We had our birthday last year, but in 1979 it was started, and it was in Jennings Fields
Oh, yeah.
for the first 3 years.
Okay.
And then they were out at where our location now for the past 22 years, I think it is. Out at our, and at that time when they built it out there, everybody says, why are you going so far away? Now it seems right in the middle of the community.
I just have a comment. I just wanted to reiterate, you're not only developing children and athletes, you're actually developing these parents to be respectful cheerleaders for their kids as well. And something that I've been able to become as a better leader because I was able to coach my son, and it was an amazing opportunity. So I just want you to know that it's not just these kids, it's the community as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Craig. The other thing we want to do as we go forward, and we've had conversations with lacrosse and with Zionsville football, to say what can we do, as they all have challenges in fields and whatnot. We want to work together, especially if we get a turf field that can be used more often when there's bad weather or not. So that's one of our goals, is to be, as the largest youth development group in Boone County, we want to help the others in what they do also.
Very good. Well, I'm glad to see you getting your money. I wish we had a giant check to give you, but we just have claims to sign, but it still works the same way. Any other questions? I appreciate you both coming out today and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, and I hope you'll have me back for the next round whenever you need me.
Absolutely.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to old business here. First up, we've got a consideration of an ordinance establishing a Department of Public Works and creating the positions of Director of Public Works and Division Supervisors. This is a second reading in ordinance number 2020-09. Mr. Lance, are you planning on speaking, or just if we have questions? He's not planning on speaking. I think we know what this is all about, but councilors, any questions or comments on this? Mr. Lance or internally? If not, I will take a motion on this issue.
Motion to approve.
First from Councilor Choi, second from Councilor Culp. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ordinance number 2020-09 is adopted on final reading with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Go get it, Mr. Lance.
Good job, Lance.
Next up, we've got a consideration of an ordinance vacating a portion of a public right-of-way. It's the town of Hamilton Holiday Farms, Hinkie. This is a second reading in ordinance number 2020-10. I'm assuming we have a speaker on this, but I know we talked about this last time. I'm not sure if there's additional questions on this piece.
Move to adopt.
Is that Councilor Burke? Thank you. Go first. I'll second that. That's Councilor Garrett. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ordinance number 2020-10 is adopted on final reading with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next up, we've got a consideration of an ordinance vacating a drainage easement. This is the Taurus property This is a second reading. This is ordinance 2020-11. We're flying through these. Any questions, counselors, on this one? We talked about it last time. All right, well, I'll make a motion to adopt this on final reading. A second from Vice President Traylor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? I love not having to do roll calls. Ordinance 2020-11 is adopted on final reading with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we've got a consideration of an ordinance reestablishing the safety board for the fire department matters. This is a second reading. This is ordinance 2020-12. I will note for the council that the mayor had submitted some correspondence and a position on this matter. You all should have received. I'll also note for the record that I was less than thrilled with how it portrayed Ms. Whitley in that memo. Any questions related to this matter?
I just want to make the comment that I know that this has been a little controversial with the mayor's office, and we're still going through consideration of all the legality of this, but I feel fairly certain that this is legitimate, but in order to consider this fully, I would make, when it's appropriate, a motion to continue this until the next meeting.
So we've got a motion to continue. Before I recognize that motion, are there any questions that councilors have on this particular ordinance? There is a motion to continue. Is there a second on that motion to continue? I do not hear a second. One more time here. All right, that motion does not pass. Are there any other motions on this matter?
Make a motion to adopt.
We have a first from Vice President Traylor.
Second.
Second from Councilor Plunkett. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ordinance 2020-12 is adopted on final reading with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we have a consideration of an ordinance reestablishing the Board of Metropolitan Police Commissioners as the safety board for police matters. This is also a second reading, in ordinance 2020-13, and similar in nature to the first one. Any questions on this one? Any motions on this one?
I have the same concerns, but considering my motion last time did not carry.
You can make whichever motion you like.
I know, I'm going to step aside, but I do have the same concerns with this.
Fair enough. Well, I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
I heard Vice President Traylor first. That was still my good ear. I'm going to motion to adopt a second for Vice President Traylor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ordinance 2020-13 is adopted on final reading with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. That's old business. That's pretty good. Okay, we've got new business. First up is the Hussey Mayfield Library Board Declaration of Fiscal Body. I've got Sarah Moore as Executive Director here. Amy, is she on the live meeting? Talk through what this is and why.
Not see that she is in.
Sarah, if you're out there, if you want to raise your hand, then Amy might be able to find you and promote you.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Joe's giving us a thumbs up back there.
Oh yeah, I hear you, Sarah.
Okay, good. All right, I don't know what's up with my video, but I am here. So basically there was a House Bill 410 that went into effect on July 1st, 2020. And what that did was clarify our fiscal body in case there is a point where we would need to go under review. And previously we had been working under code that told us that our fiscal body was the county because we serve more than one town in our service area. But this now says that because over 50% of our service district is in one town, then that town becomes our fiscal body. So that makes the town of Zionsville our current fiscal body with 91% of our service district.
Very good. Questions on this? This is more, I think, technical in nature than anything else, but something that certainly the library does such a good job for our community. I'm supportive of.
So what, just out of clarification, I have the one-page document. I don't know what it means. So what does it mean for us to be the fiscal body?
Sarah, are you able to answer that? You're probably the best person. Did you hear what Councilor Choi said? Basically, we have this declaration of fiscal body. What does it mean in general?
Basically, right now, this just needs to be turned into the DLGF so that they know who will review our budget should it come up. And the rules around that are basically if we were to have more than 150% of our budget in reserves, or if we were to spend over our annual budget, then we could go under review and you would be the fiscal body doing that review.
It's basically us reviewing their budget, Alex.
Okay.
There have to be triggering events, but otherwise,
yeah,
we won't come.
We don't do a regular review of their budget.
We do not, no.
There's that triggering event. So.
Correct. Heather, I'm the only one that signs this. Do we still need motions and votes by the council?
I would
Okay.
do it as a group.
Okay. Unless there's any other questions, I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second from Councilor Plunkett. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the declaration of fiscal body is approved, a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Although councilors, for this document, I'm the only one that signs this, just as an FYI. You won't see that come across your desk. Next up, we've got a nomination for a new pathway committee member. John Salewich, who was on the pathway committee and now is on the Parks Board, has decided to focus all of his attention on the Parks Board, so he made a resignation. As typical, we went out and looked in the community. A lot of very qualified people in our community. We've also been making a concerted effort to have more diversity on some of our boards, whether it's racial or gender or any other type. And spoke with a woman, MJ Darris, who's got a real interest in this, real passion in this. I had a good conversation with her, and I think she'd be an excellent candidate. So I was going to nominate her as a replacement for John on the Pathway Committee. This is a council appointment, and that's it. So any questions for me on her or this process?
Make a motion to approve.
We've got a first from Vice President Trailer, second from Councilor Plunkett. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Very good. We're thrilled to have her on the board. Amy, are you able to reach out to her, or I can get you contact information just to make sure that she can get plugged in with the right group?
Yes, you can just get me the contact information.
Okay. If you could remind me, I'll definitely do it. Thank you. Next up, we've got a consideration of a confirmatory resolution for the designation of an economic development area and approval of personal property tax abatement application. This is for MWI Animal Health. This is a public hearing, and this is resolution number 2020-13. Mr. DeLong, I have you listed, and I think you're in the building somewhere. So I'm not sure if you're going to be speaking this matter. We've also got Aaron Head, Tom Wakefield, and Leslie Wagner as potential speakers.
Yes, good evening. We have a number of folks that can speak to this matter. We do recognize this is a confirmatory resolution, and the town council is in a position to.
Wagner, are you here in the building? If you're here in the building, could you come here?
Correct.
We can't hear you.
Okay, very good.
I can
That would be
stall for a few minutes while you get here. Can I open the public hearing just as a before? Okay, great. So this is a public hearing. I approve the publication for this public hearing. If anyone would like to speak on this matter, I will open the public hearing. Feel free to come up to the lectern and speak on this matter and only this matter. All right, well, it didn't take as long as I thought it would, so hopefully it's hurrying. I'll close the public hearing. And, just there he is, wow.
Hello, Mr.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
So really just recognizing that this matter has been presented as a declaratory resolution, so the town council is in a position to move forward this evening on a confirmatory. Your applicants are virtually in the audience. Certainly I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Do you want to give like a 30-second overview of what this is? I mean, I know we got all the paperwork, but just.
Certainly. This is
for the
your,
public.
the second step of your two-step process related to the personal property tax abatement requested by NWI, the entity that's presenting this evening. You may recall the presentation last month was very detailed as to the operation, the proposal. This is a relocation of a facility, an expansion of the same facility. The tax abatement that's in front of you is a total of $164,000 over, I believe, 5 years.
That's right, Tom was the Cubs ring bearer.
Yes, you
That is correct.
Is that the word? It's the only thing I remember. It's the thing I printed out when I remember, not the only thing I remember. Yeah, okay, this makes a lot of sense.
I did Google that afterwards.
I did too.
Yeah.
Any questions on this, councilors?
No, there he is. Want to see,
Oh, there he
see
is.
the ring?
Mr. Cub himself. Hey, there we go. Questions for NWI Health? Happy they'll be moving his eyes, hopefully. Well, I'll make a motion to approve if there's no questions.
I'll second.
A second from Councilor Culp. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution 2020-13 passes with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Welcome to Zionsville, guys. Glad to have you. Wayne, are you sticking around for this one? We've got a consideration of an ordinance to amend the Town of Zionsville zoning ordinance petition number 2020-29-Z, Zionsville Community Schools. This is our ordinance 2020-15. It has you listed in parentheses.
I can speak to the matter. So petitioner, I'm assuming, is also online, or certainly their legal representation.
Yeah, Mr. Becker.
This matter comes to you with a favorable recommendation from your Plan Commission from their meeting in September. The matter is a rezoning request for the school corporation in support of their endeavors.
Very good. Questions, councilors, you may have on this or for petitioner who's online? All right, I would take a motion on this then.
Make a motion to adopt.
We've got a first from Vice President.
Second.
Second, is that Councilor Melton? Second, Councilor Plunkett, sorry, threw it out there. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ordinance number 2020-15 is adopted with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next we got is consideration of an ordinance to amend the Town of Zionsville zoning ordinance. This is petition number 2020-24-Z. This is Russell Oakes. This is ordinance number 2020-16. We also have the record a mayor's correspondent with her position on this matter where she is not in favor of this approval by this board. Mr. Andrioli, I believe, were you going to speak on this matter to this board?
At your pleasure, Mr. President.
My pleasure is now. Let's do it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Mike Andrioli, 1393 West Oak Street. I'm an attorney and I represent Kendallwood Realty. Mr. Jim Knighton and Joe Zhang, the two principals, are here in the room tonight where I managed to snag a seat. And this comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission after two very lengthy public hearings. A lot of testimony taken. We presented a lot of documents. In front of the Plan Commission, we were able to submit an over traffic study, a revised traffic study, a school fiscal report that was submitted by Mr. Schaefer. In addition, we have a site plan and master plan that we had proposed. Part of our application process, and it was lengthy in terms of the documents, had to do with a lot of the drainage calculations and work that were done with regard to the overflow of the dam for Russell Lake that had to be dealt with before we filed our application. And in addition to that, we had a list of commitments that is part of your certification, that if in fact the ordinance is adopted by the town council, those commitments will be recorded and will run with the land. And essentially they do three things. We have to develop this particular property in accordance with the master plan that we presented to the town in substantial compliance with it, and of which the Plan Commission issued their favorable recommendation. Second of all, if the development plan and planning is approved, we can not have any more than 150 lots on this particular property. And we think extremely important, and I think although the Plan Commission members can speak for themselves, as part of the public record, a couple of them enunciated the fact that the third issue is that we cannot have any two-family dwellings on this property. This property basically amounted to almost 98 acres. 31 of it was in the R1 zoning classification. The balance of the ground, 67, almost 65, almost 66 acres, is in the R2 classification. This takes the R1 and makes it an R2 classification so that the entire parcel of ground is an R2 classification. Those particular zoning classifications came to you when we did our reorganization several years ago. That was part of the zone map that was incorporated in. They've been with the property for as long as I can remember, those two classifications. And so essentially, in order to rezone the one to the 31 acres to an R2 classification, we made those commitments that deal not just with the 31, but the entire parcel of ground. And essentially, those were our commitments. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Hopefully, to the extent that there's any questions that members have, you can also talk to the Plan Commission members. I don't like to really say what they were saying or what was in their minds. That's up to them to answer any questions that you have. But it was a favorable recommendation after two very, very lengthy public meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Curious, just because I think you've got it in front of you, the letter from the mayor, what was the date on that?
The date was October 1st.
Okay, so that was, I was just checking, that was not given to the Plan Commission prior to their meeting, because that was on September 21st. So
Correct.
I believe the planning commission did receive a
different one?
A different one
Okay.
from the mayor as well.
All right.
Councilors, questions?
Yes, a few questions. Speaking on my district, I just want to make a couple clarifications before we go into some more questions. A number of people feel or questioning that the vote tonight is to approve the master plan. That is not the vote tonight. The vote is to take the partial that's 31 acres to an R2 to match the rest, correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Angelo, can you go to just I want to make sure everyone at home can hear the dialogue. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. That is correct. The proposal is only taking the 31 acres and rezoning it to a similar classification for the balance of the ground, which is the 65 acre R2 classification. However, the commitments deal with the entirety of the ground, not just the 31 acres, but the limitations also placed on the 65 plus acres.
So some of the questions that are coming up is that only adds 10 more homes to your master plan, correct?
Well, I'm sorry?
That only adds 10 more homes to your master plan with the approval of this 31 acres from an R1 to an R2.
That is a fair question and an accurate rendition. If you have the 31 acres and the 65 acres, and you develop it only in single-family homes, we could have 140 homes with the zoning classification as is. We were seeking an additional 10 to maximize it at 150. So it would be only another 10. I suspect what we're going to find when we get on site, we'll probably lose a lot or two, as you normally do with regard to topography and those types of things.
So if we didn't approve this tonight and you went to start building, how many homes could you build on the current master plan?
We can build 140 home sites based upon the density classifications of the R1 and the R2 as is. However, the R2 also allows us to build two-family dwellings, and we could put 115 of those. So you have to add another couple hundred homes for the R2. That's the trade-off, is the R2 classification allows 2-family dwellings. What we've done is say, if we comply with the master plan, we will have no 2-family dwellings on this property anywhere.
What is a 2-family dwelling? Is it a duplex?
I'm sorry?
What is a 2-family dwelling? Is that a duplex?
Yeah,
Would you
yes.
consider it a duplex?
Yes, yes.
Are there any duplexes in Zionsville? Are there any communities of duplexes?
No, but remember, this was not to my knowledge, but at least I've never represented anybody that sought one from a rezoning or otherwise. They probably would sell like hotcakes, quite frankly. But this was an older zoning classification. It was in the county. It took in the county classification under the R2 permits duplexes.
So I got it. So that this was sort of assumed when the reorg happened, that this sort of grandfathered in the ability to build a duplex on this lot, when today, if it was fresh ground, would not allow it. I got you. Okay.
I think the upshot of this, is articulated by members of the Plan Commission, is that if you come in with a 2-family dwelling project right now in the R2 alone, we can develop that as a matter of right. We don't need council approval for that. We can develop that as a matter of right. That seemed to be the articulated trade-off that members of, at least 1 or 2 members of the Plan Commission had, as to why it made sense to do this rezoning and attach the commitments that prohibit the ability to have those 2-family dwellings on this property.
Are 2-family dwellings allowed on the R1?
No, no.
So, oh, go ahead.
Mr. Androli, just a quick question. I've had a lot of complaints about the West Oak Street and traffic. Is it true that your developer will be paying a road impact fee of about $140,000 to the town of Zionsville?
I'm sorry?
A road impact fee? Is that something that you'll be, the developer?
Oh, yes.
Do you know what that number is going to be? Is it going to be about $140,000?
That would not be surprising, given the fact that we would put 150 home sites. All of these homes will be individual platted lots. So that would not be an unusual figure. Plus, we would have park impact fees as well that we will have to pay.
Do you know what the park impact fees could total up to be about with 140 homes?
I do not. I apologize.
Just curious.
Number, but I do not. We're not at that stage. We know it's going to be costly. We know we're going to have to pay it. And it's been my experiences that unless there's a very, very good reason, those fees are very rarely varied in any manner. You have to pay them unless you get some offsets that are allowed under the park impact or road cap statutes, and there aren't really any for this particular project, so we're going to have to pay all those fees, I'm sure. Do
you and the developer feel that traffic will be able to get out of this development fairly easily, or just like everybody else down West Oak Street at this point? Is that correct?
Nothing is easy on Oak Street at this point. I mean, that's just the fact of life. We've grown. We've had more people coming, especially from our west. So people will be able to get out. The traffic study that was done a few years ago was revised yet this summer by A&F Engineering, and quite frankly, they're as good as we get in Central Indiana. They'll tell us what we have to do, and we're going to have to do it, and that's in the revised traffic study. We didn't anticipate, nor did staff anticipate that was going to cause any problem from a traffic standpoint, other than you got to get out onto Oak Street.
So I do have a question about the traffic study. How valid can a traffic study be right now when most people aren't driving?
I'm sorry?
How can your traffic study be valid if nobody's driving?
They did one in 2018, I believe, for Pulte. Is that correct as well?
Yeah, I mean, we did it
2 years ago, though.
There was an older traffic study, and then we did a revision of the traffic study within the last month and a half, 2 months. A&F did that revision as well.
Yeah, I'm just questioning the validity with not as many people on Oak Street right now.
I can speak to that.
We'll stand on our traffic study.
You're welcome to speak to it if you just address yourself at the podium, and you're welcome to answer.
You have something to say? Come on up.
Matt told me the answer to that.
Give your name and address, please.
Yeah. This is Jim Knighton. I'm the developer and one of the principals in this deal. And Matt says that the guy that did the traffic study that Mike's referring to says that he got traffic counts in Zionsville before the COVID problems occurred. And that Zionsville is one of the few areas that he can give accurate traffic studies based on 2020 data pre-COVID.
I think Matt from A&F Engineering did the traffic study up the road that for the subdivision proposal and the rezoning proposal for MI Homes that was withdrawn. But he did that one, and he's done several along, I call it 334, it's Oak Street, several along there. So he has probably more historical data in terms of traffic in Zionsville, other than perhaps anecdotally, Mr. Lance would have a lot of information certainly, but in terms of a traffic engineering firm, they probably have more information factually in terms of traffic counts in our community than any other single firm.
Just to clarify for those in the audience, whether we pass this petition or not, we're still going to have traffic impact to that area because by way of right, you're going to be able to develop it to at least 140 single-family homes, if not a combination of double-family. And so there's going to be traffic impact on Oak Street.
Certainly. This property will not lie fallow. My clients bought it in order to do some appropriate and they hope reasonable and responsible development on it. And so it will develop. There will be traffic with regard to this. The question is really what kind of development do we want? And or just as importantly, what kind of development do we want to avoid on this particular property?
So I'm still weighing all the different aspects of this, but one of the things, and I think this was brought up in the Plan Commission meeting that I attended as well, in Exhibit 6 of the filings, in your statement of commitments in the point 1, you agreed to substantial compliance. And I think there was some question around what substantial compliance meant.
You will find substantial compliance language in probably every set of commitments that you have received for the past 25 years. If we go in and change a lot line because we have to topographically, we don't want somebody to say that wasn't compliance with the site plan. So you've got to leave enough wiggle room in there for the actual development plan process that is fully engineered, fully laid out, dimensionally laid out, and those types of things to perhaps change it slightly. But from a road standpoint, roads generally are in that location. The cuts onto Oak Street will be in that location. To make major changes with those would be a substantial deviation from the master plan. So you're talking about more the internal parts of the development in terms of the substantial compliance with lot lines and general locations of where things are.
So we're not talking about deviation from the general, so when we're looking at the access roads to that, those are where the access roads will be.
Right. We've had Mr. Brown from A&F do traffic studies on those particular entrances, and there's an emergency entrance down the way as well. So we're not proposing to change that. And for members of town council, one of the advantages of how we're proposing this development is we're not going to take any traffic, large or small, over the dam. We looked at it and done substantial studies with regard to the dam at Russell Lake. We're going to avoid any traffic over that at all. All of it is around it. So those really are where our cuts have to be. And quite frankly, it makes sense because the main cut into this lines up directly across the street with the church cut that can be busy, extremely busy from time to time. So it should be really across from the church, major church cut across the street.
What about in terms of, as far as the compliance goes, what about in terms of buffers and those kind of things?
About what?
Buffers and those kind of
The
issues?
specific buffer requirements will be laid out in the development plan and the actual planning process. We have buffer yards that we have to maintain pursuant to the ordinance. We've had discussions with the neighbor immediately to the west with regard to some of the buffer yards. We're not exactly there from a planning standpoint to be able to tell her whether we're going to have a 20-foot, we're going to be able to keep all the trees in there, 30-foot, 10-foot, or 50 feet, because we've got a tree line on our side about 50 feet. We want to retain as many of those trees as possible, but we're just not quite at the engineering stage where topographically we can say how much of that we're going to keep. Obviously, it's our interest to keep as much of that tree line as possible.
And I just want to ask a question. So, and Josh and I, the president and I talked the other day about this. If we approve this today, the council will never see anything on this again, correct?
Right.
Unless the resident asks for money.
Okay.
I think you have to, do you do historically a first reading and then a second reading of the ordinances on rezonings or not?
This will be coming to us, so the planning commission acts as the first reading, so the town council is the second reading under our procedures.
Okay.
So remonstration could still take place though in the planning phase of this, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to be clear, we vote for the zoning, for the rezoning. To Councilor Troy's point, the buffers, stormwater, erosion, all those issues that people have, all that stuff will be addressed in the planning phase with the ability for remonstration at that point.
Oh, yes. No matter what you do today, this is just the very beginning of the process. We have to go through a development plan and planning process where all the engineering details, all the road designs, all the lot layouts, all the topographical changes. And in talking with the neighbor immediately to our west, Dr. Glover, one of the things that I assured her is that your stormwater management ordinance from council standpoint, plan commission standpoint, is, I call it draconian because it is extremely difficult to comply with. We think we're going to be able to do that because we have a large lake, we have a good outlet. Usually if you don't have the ability to retain or you don't have a good outlet, you're going to have tremendous problems in being able to comply with the ordinance. So all of that is going to be in the process where all the details. I've told folks over in Thornhill and I've told Dr. Glover, before we actually go to any meetings, we'll sit down with our details in hand of the specific drainage and meet with the neighbors as they would like to meet. And we'll go ahead and talk about that ahead of time. Also with regard to the buffer yards, which we have to meet and how much we're going to be able to keep topographically. We'll have meetings with everybody that has contacted us before we go to that step at the Plan Commission.
Yeah, and then Mr. Andrew, just as a point of clarification, we received your letter to the mayor on September 30th, and then we got a letter from the mayor on October 1st. Have you reviewed, are you aware of her concerns? Have you guys met and have you attempted to meet with her?
No, other than what was contained in the letter that was the very last day of our meeting, and it wasn't the last day of the first meeting, it was the last day of the final meeting in front of the Plan Commission when she wrote the letter. We've not heard from her. We hope to understand her concerns better, and hopefully we can help her understand our project and what we're trying to accomplish here. But we've not had a meeting on it as of yet.
Okay.
I have a clarifying question maybe for the president or someone else. I mean, to Jason's point, if we pass this, obviously there can still be remonstration, but then to whom? To whom is then still a decision maker as to that outcome?
The Plan Commission.
The Plan
It
Commission.
goes back to the plan
It goes
commission.
back to the planning
And just
commission.
to be clear, so we're talking about whether or not the zoning decision would come back before the council, and the answer is no, because you're changing the zoning designation. The Plan Commission would still go through the normal planning process, and then they would make a recommendation to the council that would still come back. So
They made the recommendation on zoning when it comes to the actual development itself. They will make no further recommendation. That is a ministerial act
Oh, right.
that
which
they
is the
have to
Planning
meet.
Commission. But the remonstrators can still go back to the planning commission.
Yes,
and still have
there's
the
still,
discussion of the project
there still
itself.
has to be a public hearing. We still have to get the notices out. I think we must have sent out 65 notices. So that process and that hearing process with all the specific concerns and details will have to be heard again by the planning commission, and they will have to weigh in on that
Yeah,
specifically.
but it would be out of control of this body to have any other influence on the process. I guess I'm concerned that the mayor has put this forward and there could be debate over the timeline, but I feel like I would like to have your analysis of that and your commentary against her concerns. I'd like to hear those, if that makes sense. I know there's not time for it today to do that, but you have that, and we've not really had a chance for you to reply, to hear your reply to her. Does that make sense?
Did you reply with an email to the mayor?
You mean after we got her letter?
Yes.
No, that came out the actual day of the planning commission meeting, so we did not respond to it. In fact, we only saw it in passing because the staff there was sending letters from remonstrance up until the very end. So no, I have not responded to that, other than sent the letter that you have, saying, be happy to meet, know your concerns and this, that, and the other than what's included in her letter. But all of the things in her letter, we addressed in front of the planning commission. To the extent there's concerns about schools, we got a letter from Mr. Schaefer that this is a net positive towards the school system. We did a traffic study with regard to the accounts and how we were going to get out of the subdivision and those types of things. So we thought we addressed it all, but I'm still willing to meet with the mayor at any point she desires to meet. And Jim and I will be happy to go over there or meet virtually with her to talk with her about her concerns.
Are there any studies at all that have not been completed?
Pardon me?
Are there any studies that have not been completed that?
I have hearing issues. And
That's okay.
Let me come and see if I can hear you and I'll walk back.
Are there any studies that have not been completed yet? Because it would be something that would later be traditionally later in the process.
No, all of the studies are there in front of the Plan Commission, but I must tell you, and I think a caveat to that is, with regard to drainage in particular, those studies, before you go in front of the Plan Commission, are much more detailed than the development plan than what you'd have at this point. Until you know what the lot's gonna look like and what the development's gonna look like, how many homes you might have, where it's laid out, you really can't do detailed engineering drainage studies for that until you kind of know what you have. And so that's one of the steps that we did take some preliminary and do a lot of drainage work preliminarily as it relates to the lake and the dam and the safety issues with regard to that. So that was where most of the heavy lifting at this point has been put into, to make sure that this is a viable project. It doesn't do us any good to seek a rezoning of it if we can't, if there's an issue with the dam or the lake that's going to cause us to have a problem. We don't believe that's the case.
Yeah, what's unique about this for us, and of course I'm a new council member, is most of the developments in Zionsville end up being, former farmland that's fairly flat. And this is a scenario where we're talking about a lake and drainage and a former dam and perhaps some landfill. It's zoned separately right around the lake. And again, I don't know why that decision was made, but clearly it was, zoned differently. And so we're making that change. And so it's a little bit, it's a different type of rezoning than we're used to seeing, just because the topography and the geography is different because of the lake is there.
Yeah, normally what you receive and what you see is an agricultural piece of seeking rezoning into residential. Here we've got residential as a matter of right. We're just seeking to tweak the 31 acres in order for us to go ahead and get this particular layout of the development. So it is a little different, but I might share with you, trying to drain a flat piece of ground with no potential outlet is a much more all-encompassing, difficult problem than what we have. We have retention right there. We have other areas where we'll have dry detention, and we have a wonderful outlet. so many of the subdivisions don't have that, and they have to get extremely creative in terms of where the water is going to go once they retain it. As I told Dr. Glover, we've got two things with regard to drainage. We have to accommodate all the water that's coming on our site, retain it, meter it out based upon your ordinances. And two, we cannot put any water from our site onto any of our neighbors. We have to capture it all, storm sewers and the like, and be able to go ahead, store it, and then meter it out pursuant to your stormwater management ordinance. So from a drainage standpoint, this is going to be a simpler proposition, I think, than trying to drain a flat piece of ground. It's a good question.
Thank you.
One of the clarifications that you and I discussed, and just for edification for people out in the audience, is that when you make commitments on this rezoning, those commitments will go to any sale of the property to anybody else. These commitments are tied to the rezoning. It's not that they go away if you sell.
No, in fact, when I first got Janice and I were exchanging the certification from the Plan Commission, and it didn't have the commitments, and I said, given your ordinance, the way you draft your ordinance, it refers to the certification and the requirements set out in the certification. I said, attach the commitments to the certification so they cross-reference. So we will have to record these commitments. They will run with the land, and the other thing is important. These commitments run with the land, and you're familiar with that, as opposed to the individual. So they will sit on the land, if for some reason we decide we're not going to do anything with it, that wouldn't be the case, but let's assume that somebody else can't come in and say, we want to build something different there. They'll have to come and get modification of those commitments, and those have been extremely hard to do in the past around here. So.
One more question for me. When you're rezoning this, you're adding 10 homes. Why all this effort toward 10 homes? It doesn't seem like a whole lot.
I'm sorry?
Why all this effort to rezone just to add 10 more homes? It doesn't seem like a lot.
And that was a question that a couple of Plan Commission asked. It gives us a little bit better layout because it allows us to spread a little of the development in the R2 over in the R1. Because if you look at the number of homes, full and complete lots that we have under our layout into the R1, we've got about 40. And we can only have about 31 as it exists now. So it allows us to spread the development out and make it a much more usable, and we think a much more attractive development because we have three essential different products for this.
Do you have a plan that is... Did you send us a plan of what it would look like if it wasn't rezoned?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you should have a complete site plan and master plan. And I didn't attach.
Well, there's the same question I was going to ask. Is there a plan if it's not rezoned? In other words, if we say no today and you say, well, I'm going to go build these 140 units. By the way, that's a pet peeve of mine. I don't like voting for things just so that you don't build something I don't want. But let's just say that you do that, right? What does that plan look like? Because I have a problem. I'm trying to do the math where you've got the land, but you've got a gas easement, you've got the water, you've got right of ways, you've got setbacks, you've got undevelopable land, you've got detention areas. So you've had to cluster it together. You've got 45 cottages on 5.4 acres. I'm struggling to understand how you get 140 homes
easily
on this land. How?
Easily, because these lots can go down to a minimum of 5,000 square feet.
But what is that product, right? I mean, what does that product in the market look like? Just because you can build it doesn't mean you're going to sell it. And I'm sure he's smart enough to know he's not going to build something he can't sell.
Right.
So.
Well, the site plan that we have shows essential lot layout and where everything would be. It doesn't show the actual dimensions of the lot, but it actually shows the lots and the streets and those types of things. Have we done other conceptual plans to see what it might look like if this zoning was not done?
Correct.
Yes.
Can that be shared? Because what I want to see is like, all right, if we say yes, we know what we get. If we say no, I don't know what I'm getting. So I kind of feel like I only have half of the story.
These plans have gone through at least 7 or 8 iterations, maybe more, over a year and a half in terms of concepts and layouts. I sent to Councilmember Choi a copy of an early one that we got, just dealing with the R2 zoning, and how many doubles we can put on that and how that would lay out. I'll be happy to furnish that to the other town council members.
Well, I think it'd be helpful because it's a good understanding of what could be there and what couldn't be there, right?
I think that's a fair question, and as I've already said, I thought maybe my paralegal had sent those out to you after we sent it out to Councilor Choi, but if you've not gotten that, I'll go ahead and make sure we get that sent out.
I think that'd be helpful.
I did receive that. I have.
Did you receive that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I did get a
it
chance.
shows development on the R2. It exists.
It shows the development on the R2, not on the R1.
Not on the R1. So that's, you said that the flow would not be as good if this petition was denied, so that R1 would remain the R1. But it doesn't show what you would develop on the R1 to be able to compare that lack of flow on the loss of the 10 homes compared to what plot maps that we have before us now. Does that make sense at all? Feel like I'm.
Yeah, I think with that concept, that was one of the early concepts. We wanted to see what would fit on the R2 in terms of the double. So that was specifically dealing with the two-family dwellings. So we didn't worry about how that would lay out to the R1 because we wanted to see what it would look like in terms of numbers.
Okay.
And at that point, for purposes of this, it's irrelevant.
It's relevant because we're not going to do it. If this is approved, we have to develop to substantial compliance with the plan that we submitted to the Plan Commission, and we can attach it to this particular, and maybe attached to this, to the commitments that you received. So it doesn't matter. We can't develop that even if we wanted to. But if the rezoning is turned down and everything's fair game, I guess, at that point, in terms of the matter of right.
That's tough, right? Because a lot of the people that we've heard emails and stuff from are like, they're worried about if it doesn't get approved, then what happens with that R2? And, if this property gets sold again to somebody else, then, it's a free for all, so having the opportunity to at least control a lot of that. I would like to have seen the alternative that Councilor Choi received before this, but again, I'm also sensitive to the fact that may not necessarily be relevant.
I appreciate the vision. I would add, in looking at the maps between the two plans, and I guess I didn't see the first plan, but I saw the second plan. The primary rezoning is directly around the lake, right? So to answer partially the question, in my mind, why 10 homes? Why all the effort? Because those are lakefront property homes. And if you look at the rest are cottages, so these are larger plots of land. I'm assuming there's more ROI on developing those because people are going to pay a higher premium to have a lakefront view. So that's why 10 homes may well be worth the ROI because those are going to sell for 2, 3, 4 times the cottage price. Is that correct?
I think what they propose is.
Mr. Burke, but you're right.
Yeah.
I think what's been proposed doesn't affect what they have plotted out on the lakefront homes. It's on the lower left-hand, the southwest corner of the estate homes it would affect how many of those would be put in. Is that right? It has nothing to do with the lakefront homes at 0.88 acres plots. It's the estate homes on the 0.25.
I thought that the rezoning was directly around
No,
the
it's
lake.
on the western half, western third. So it's a big line drawn north-south.
So all around the lake is already zoned R2.
Most of the lake is already zoned the R1, but the property from north to south is quite long. And so the lake's up front, all the back of it, that area, that 31 acres that's in back, that's all part of the estate homes. So it's just not all the lake lots, the 10 lake lots, you also have the estate homes.
Right, but not necessarily waterfront, so I was incorrect, but you can have larger estate homes to offset some of the other costs of the construction, which is why you would like to have that developed, right? Thanks for the clarification.
I know they mentioned the school corporation, that actually the mayor mentioned this in her letter. It says the anticipated addition of 110 students to the neighborhood is 7 students away from the negative financial impact. So just so council's aware of that. Good questions here today. Any other questions or any motions on
I
this?
just have a comment.
Can we hear from remonstrators?
This is not a public hearing.
Oh, okay.
Demonstrators had an opportunity at the request to speak. There were none.
Well, go ahead, Councilor.
I've got a question for Mr. Lance. I didn't want you to, Mr. Lance, yeah. If you don't mind, you didn't think you were gonna get to sit back there and not come answer a question, did you? All right, so this is, I've heard a lot of good questions and I feel like I know the answer to my question, but I gotta ask it anyway. My biggest concern on this is putting even another car pulling now onto Oak Street. From your expertise, is there, I mean, I know the time to negotiate is times like this. Is there anything we could do to improve the traffic in relation to this? Like, and it's a big question.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a bit of a loaded question because of course the answer is yes, but is there anything that's reasonable or that could legally be exacted from the project? And that is the no, there's really nothing to do. Oak Street is a widely uncontrolled street, which means it's just driveway after driveway after driveway. You're gonna have those impacts whether you're coming into your neighborhood or you're coming into a driveway. There will be no long-term fix for that. We can expand lanes. That only makes it more difficult to get out because now you're waiting for more lanes to cross in front of you. So Oak Street will take your typical major thoroughfare development path and will become more and more challenging to come on and off of, both from driveways and from subdivisions. The main intersections have those capacities for traffic signals or roundabouts, but minor intersections and certainly driveways, no. That's just, it's the same thing you see on Michigan Road. Any of the major arteries, it's going to be a pain point to live along those. Is that highly scientific? I guess?
Yeah, that answers it.
So, Lance, I guess to add to that, thinking, short term there's not, but isn't it not in your estimation that over the next few years, we will be alleviating traffic on Oak Street by some of the other changes, whether it's roundabouts or new pathways that are being built currently, north and south? Will that not alleviate, or is that not the goal to alleviate a lot of the traffic already on Oak Street?
It is absolutely. Predictive models of traffic dispersion are challenging, but the north-south connector is offering an alternative and an I-65 alternative to the developers that come north that may currently be using only Ford Road for its convenience. So the north-south connector under construction, I think, will take a lot of pressure off segments of Oak Street. But that, certainly beyond that, other alternatives could be developed in the future to get either more direct interstate access or go to point A to point B.
Yeah, and I echo Brian's concerns. I do hope we're trying to solve that problem long-term. But I guess the challenge for me is if we don't rezone it, they're going to build 140 homes or more. This one, of course, there are larger home sites to recoup dollars, but it's still it's not much of a difference.
Yeah, there's no decision.
In terms of really the traffic.
That addresses my issue.
Right, because they could build anyway.
Yeah.
Put 150.
That was my point at the beginning, was there's going to be traffic issues, whether it's rezoned or not. It's
unfortunately.
And I have to apologize to people who had contacted me about this issue because I had assumed that there would be a public comment period on this. So I had let them know that they were welcome to make those public comments. And for that reason, for the fact that we haven't had a conversation between the landowner and Mr. Andreoli and the mayors, and I know that there's some conversation that might be happening between Mr. Andreoli as well, along with some of the remonstrators next week or the week after. Is that right? For those reasons, that I would make the motion to continue this until the next evening meeting in the first
Monday in November.
Do you want to wait a month? Not till the next meeting? I mean, we can always continue at next meeting too, versus waiting till the next evening meeting.
I want to give them enough time to have a conversation with each other.
So, and Heather, weigh in here too. My recommendation, if you'd like to do a motion to continue to next meeting, and if you hear feedback that there still is not enough time, we would continue it again. There's no limit to the number of continuances, except if we don't affirm the planning commission's or overrule the planning commission's recommendation.
We have a time limit when we can affirm.
We have a 90-day limit from the date that it is recommended to us from the planning commission, which I think was September 22nd.
Okay.
21st.
So your advice is well taken, and I will make a motion to continue to the next meeting.
Okay, I've got a motion to continue. Before one quick sec, we'll just hold that. Does anyone have any other questions on council before we go through that motion?
I do have one question for Lance.
Okay, yeah, go for it. Then we'll hold your motion, Alex. You'll be the first up as soon as the questions are done.
No worries.
So Lance, question for you is, we've heard that there's potentially wastewater capacity. Is 150 homes going to impact our wastewater?
At this point, there is capacity for this project. I guess the question along that line also would be, does 150 homes impact it any more than 140 homes would?
I'm just asking. Capacity was one of the issues with Windhaven was the study on the street and the wastewater capacity, which was brought up to me numerous times.
Okay, street capacity, streets have a theoretical capacity. A two-lane street has a theoretical capacity around 24,000 vehicles per day before your level of service begins to break down. And a street level of service is harder to define than an intersection level of service, because at an intersection you can time the amount of time it takes you to get through an intersection. You could quantify that delay. When you get talking with street capacities, it's what's called percent time following, which is how many times are you behind a vehicle that is altering your behavior. Traffic studies assume we obey the law, so flying along at 90 miles an hour having to braking is not what I'm talking about. But when you're having to drive below the speed, either below the speed limit or below your desired speed, then that starts to break down traffic or the traffic level of service on a traffic road segment. So I believe, and off the top of my head, I think Oak Street is different segment. They're in the 13 to 14, possibly 15,000 vehicles per day range. So that puts, as a two-lane road, that puts Oak Street at what, 65, 70% capacity as a two-lane before it begins to need to be expanded to four-lane. By controlling the intersections, you prolong that level of service on a roadway. Obviously, roundabouts, if you can make those nodes, those intersections smooth, that road doesn't feel as cumbersome as traffic builds on it. And there is a certain threshold where people will decide, I don't want to drive this road anymore because it's a pain. So you get this level of service that decreases as people become more frustrated with additional traffic, but then they sort of organically begin to find alternate routes if that gets them where they want to go. So that is the general 101 on street capacity it goes. As far as the sanitary sewer service goes, again, that's a lot more in the level of detail of engineering that Mr. Andreoli was speaking of as this moves along. There'll have to be an analysis of not only plant capacity, and the plant capacity for dry weather flows is currently about 55% of our 2 MGD, our 2 million gallon per day plant. The intervening capacities are line capacities. Are there smaller lines between this development and the plant itself? I can't speak to those specifics off the top of my head tonight, but I know that the plant capacity, 140 additional homes or 130 should this rezone not take place, is insignificant with our current capacity.
And as of about an hour ago, it's not your problem.
Instead of I have not officially been offered that position, so I'm only here advisory at this time.
Lance, can you speak on the percent to the town standards of a pathway right-of-way regarding this development and the idea in its usable form?
Okay, our development standards require the dedication of rights of way, obviously along the interior streets if they are to be dedicated publicly. But along the frontage streets, which are existing public roadways, our design and construction standards and development standards require the dedication of additional right of way if it is not adequate at this time. O Street is a primary arterial, so that will require a 70-foot half right of way from center line to this project side, or to the side this project lies on. The development standards also require that a pathway be placed along the frontage pursuant with the governing development standards. And that gets a little bit muddy because we've looked at a lot of pathway studies through the years. Currently, the roundabouts are contemplating a pathway of 15 feet in width, which is what the recommended pathway was in the Strategic Trails Implementation Plan. So to meet development standards, they will have to dedicate a 70-foot half right-of-way and install a pathway commensurate with our current design standards towards the back end of that right-of-way. We do work with developers when it's appropriate to allow a little bit of wiggle room on that pathway. If we want to save some trees, if there are drainage concerns, we don't want to go scorched earth just because it says to go scorched earth. So we try and find a good fit for a lot of these applications, but in a general sense, that's what's required.
As a follow-up to that then, because there are 8 cottages right along Oak. If Oak Street was to be 4 lanes, there's enough easement there that potentially that could allow for it?
The 70-foot overall half right-of-way width is not arbitrary. It is based on anticipated number of lanes based on roadway classification. So we would fully expect, unless there were some extremely extenuating circumstances, that this would be adequate on this side of the roadway.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
I have a question, one question for Mr. Andreoli. But am I allowed to ask?
Yeah, please go. Yeah, no problem.
We were.
Mr. Andrew, if you can go to the microphone when you answer, you're welcome to stay close to here.
Oh, yeah, I can talk really loud if you want. I just want to, with the potential to continue this, I just wanted to bring up in the Plan Commission, multiple people made comments that you attempted to meet with them or that you have met with them. If the question is, or if the motion ends up being that we continue this, the question I have is, if we continue this because you haven't met with the mayor, will you meet with the mayor?
Well,
I mean, that's the, am I wrong, Alex? That's your main concern that?
Well, there's also some remonstrators that have set up a meeting with Mr. Andreoli for next week.
Okay.
So I think that meeting should happen. It was most of the remonstrators that have met with me wanted to have a conversation because I asked them, have you met with him? They had not, the vast majority of them. So I wanted them to have the opportunity to talk.
So you have a meeting next week then with how many remonstrators, do you know?
Let me just share, and then you all can make a decision, and Jim and I will live with your good offices and what you want to do and what you expect of us in order to move this matter forward, and you're comfortable with a vote on this. I went ahead after the first meeting and offered to meet. One of the nice ladies who lives to our west did come in, and we had discussions with Dr. Glover and about her situation, and I tried to artfully explain things we could commit to and things we couldn't because we weren't quite there at the process yet. I reached out to others in the community on several occasions in order to meet. So between the first meeting and the second meeting, I had no takers. I get a letter, at least the Plan Commission didn't get a copy of it. The Plan Commission got it from the mayor in opposition to it. I got no phone call about trying to set up a meeting. I'm not wanting to turn this into a major argument one way or the other. We'll meet with anybody who wants to meet with us, but I sent a letter that you've received a copy of. I still haven't gotten any response from the mayor. So I don't know what I have to do. I don't know if my invitation flew off the porch. I have no idea. We'll meet with anybody who wants to meet with us with regard to the project. I think Alex is right. We did get a call today from a gentleman in Spring Hills wanting to set up a meeting. And I told him we'd be happy to meet regardless of what what the board does tonight, what the council does tonight. We'll be happy to go ahead and meet with them. I couldn't meet this week, but gave them a couple potential dates next week. So if this is troublesome to the members of the council and you think we ought to have additional meetings, I'll try to reach out to the mayor and see if she's available and meet with her. And we will try to meet with the additional people that have some concerns. My only caveat is I can only tell them so much about where we are in the process. We don't have detailed engineering plans. We don't have a finalized site plan. We don't have, because this is just not the stage that you have, that we got it as far as we could take it from a rezoning standpoint. But nonetheless, we can hear their concerns and talk with them about generally what we have planned, and I think discussions are always good. So I'll leave it up to the good offices of the council as to whether we can have this matter continue to a subsequent meeting. I would respect, and I say this respectfully, it's up to your good offices as to what you want to do. If we could have this heard at the next October meeting, that would be great, so that we know where we are in the process. But we'll come whenever you have us back.
And Mr. Andreoli, I apologize. I did not mean to infer that you refused to meet with anybody. I know you've been very open.
Oh, no, I didn't take it as such.
Okay.
I knew that there was no inference there at all.
Okay.
And I knew that. In fact, you and I had chatted about that, so I took it in no negative form whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
Unless there are any other questions.
I have one more question. This is for Lance.
Sure.
Lance, does this master plan go to the Boone County Drainage Board, or does it stay within the town of Zionsville?
There's no legal drains through this property, are there?
Me too.
Okay, so if there are legal drains that are under the jurisdiction of the Boone County Drainage Board, there will have to be joint approvals from both Zionsville and that body.
And when do those meetings occur? Is that
It's during the development plan approval process. Once they submit actual engineered drawings as an official submittal to the town, then the official review begins with all parties involved.
So that still has a process of approval after this body makes a recommendation to change the zoning on this?
Yes, that goes stormwater, sanitary sewer, all of these technical matters are reviewed in detail once they give us detailed plans to review.
Thank you.
Any other questions? There was a motion by Councilor Choi to continue this until our next meeting.
I will second.
Okay, you beat me to it, but Councilman Culp seconded that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, this is continued. This is ordinance number 2020 is continued until next meeting with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. For those remonstrators at home, I know Councilor Choi mentioned this, this is not a public hearing, which means that we don't open this particular agenda item up for public comment within the agenda item. We do, though, have a request to speak. So if there is anyone that wants to speak on this matter at the next meeting for or against it, that is your time to either be here in person or raise your hand and speak. Thank you, Mr. Andreoli. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Next we've got, this one's kind of exciting. We've got a little live action from Wayne here. This is bid opening for demolition of residential improvements at 4075 South County Road 875 East. He's going to open the bids in front of us, which have been sealed. Fully gloved, wow. and you're ready for surgery. Dr. Choi, is he ready to scrub in here?
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So thank you for the introduction. This is four bids that have been received, timely bids related to the demolition project that you mentioned. The first bid that we will open is from Casey Bertram. This bid was received at 11:06 a.m. today. And if you're for that, but okay.
You know what you're getting into.
Especially with concentrated chloride.
Bid from Casey Bertram, total services $41,575.
Wayne, I assume this is just the lowest bidder is who is selected. Is that a correct assumption, or is there extenuating circumstances in terms of quality bids or sort of like past performance or anything like that?
Well, certainly we'll get the bids open and certainly hear what is presented. Staff likely will just request to move forward with negotiating with the lowest bid that's been received. Certainly vetting the responsiveness, the quality of the bid, the response. There's a couple different factors.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Next bid we have here was received at 1:50 p.m. today. Bid is from Earth and Turf.
It is. Was it the acceptance speeches?
$41,144 total services.
All right. Down $300.
I wanted to do it my way. All right. Bid here from Crackers Demo. One received at 1:51 p.m. Total scope of work, $38,800.
Go Crackers.
Go Crackers.
Final bid received at 1:57 p.m. from Denny Companies.
For the governing counselors, is this the first time you've gone?
This is the first time. I'm so excited about
Yeah,
it.
okay.
You seem as excited.
I know. Yeah, he's gone from high to low so far, so I'm expecting more.
We all throw our number in right now?
I need your old suit, man. Just need the edge right now. This is great.
Denny Companies,
Okay.
total scope, $21,047.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, that seems a little obscenely low.
Yes.
I wonder.
How does that
Yeah.
work?
Yeah, somebody's kicking themselves.
Well, and certainly there are some variables that are built into their bid. They have a $12,000 allowance for environmental, so they've scoped this out a little bit differently. But even adding the 12,000 into the 21, we still have a pretty healthy bid proposal, and then a survey cost of add 900. So again, what staff would request here is to move forward and review the lowest and identify the lowest responsive and responsible bidder to move forward. We just on the face appears to be Denny Companies, but we want to move forward and confirm that.
Appreciate that. Appreciate all the bids. Councilors, any questions for Mr. DeLong? You read those high to low. It was very impressive. I know that was just like as they were submitted, but all right. Well, I would make a motion to authorize Mr. DeLong and the town to negotiate with the lowest bidder.
Second.
Second from Councilor Plunkett. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Bid is authorized with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Very good. Thank you.
That was fun, Wayne.
Thank you.
All right, home stretch. Councilors, are we okay? We need to buy a break. Are we good? I think this last part we should go fairly quickly. We've got a consideration of an additional appropriation resolution from Park Impact Fee Fund and Park Capital Non-Reverting Fund. This is money for the Heritage Trail Dog Park and the purchase of land at 45 Elm Street that I believe will connect Elm Street Green and Lions Park. Mindy, are you speaking on this issue, or are you just here if we got questions?
I'm here. This is Tammy Havard.
Hi, Tammy. Oh, you sound clear. Very good.
Hi, Tammy.
So on this resolution, there are 2 additional appropriations. One is from the Park Impact Fee Fund, and the additional appropriation is of $40,000 is to pay for the portion of the dog park as well as the sun shelters at Heritage Trail Park. So these are allowable park impact fee expenses, and there's currently no appropriation. So we would be asking council to give an additional appropriation of $40,000 for those purposes. The second additional appropriation request is for $500,000, and it's to fund the purchase of the property located at 45 North Elm Street. And the lower portion is going to be used for a trail extension that's connecting Elm Street Green and Lions Park as reflected in the master plan. The home site in the upper portion will be sold with the reimbursing funds going back into this non-reverting capital parks fund. And again, there's no appropriation currently, so we'd be asking council to fund this $500,000 to be used for the Parks Board.
Very good. Councilors, any questions for either Tammy or Mindy?
Just for a couple of questions on clarification. One is on the purchase of the land at 45 North Elm Street. I thought, if I remember correctly, there was another parcel that wouldn't be owned, that separates Elm Street Green from Lions Park. Is that right? I know we don't have that here, but I vaguely remember that from when we talked about this a long time ago.
Right. Yes, so there is additional parcel between the property that we're looking to purchase and Elm Street Green. However, we do have an easement.
Oh, that's right.
That is part of that parcel. So we don't need to purchase that land because we have an existing easement for there.
Okay, all right, very good. And you're looking at recouping some of the costs with the sale of the home and the small park?
Yes, so it's a little over 5 acres. The bottom 5 acres are floodplain, and so that would be the portion that we would keep. And then the upper, I believe it's a little less than half an acre with the house is what we would then turn around and sell and then put that money back into the non-reverting.
Good question. Any other questions?
I just real quick, for those keeping score at home, this money comes out of accounts that we've got collectively almost $3 million in. So it obviously is coming from accounts that the capital's there to do, so.
I'd move to adopt.
Second.
Who was the first and who was the second? Brad was the first. Councilman Jason, was that you second?
Yep.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution number 2020-14 passes with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you, Mindy. Thanks, Tammy. Next up, we've got ZPD Taser Single Source Special Purchase. Captain Clayton, you've been patiently waiting in the back there.
Town Council President, Town Council, Marius Clayton, I'm the captain at Zionsville Police. Come with you tonight with 2 items. The first one is the Taser Single Source Special Purchase. Statement to read here. The Taser brand electronic conductive weapon, or ECW, is an industry standard for this technology and the current provider of ECW for the Zionsville Police Department. The current model issued to most ZPD officers is the Taser X26, which technology is approximately 15 years old. Our use of force instructor has done a great research and determined the Taser X7 is the best replacement, both financially and for officer citizen safety. The options and technology found in the X7 are only found in the Taser brand. We found only one source provided the particular product that met our reasonable, The options and technology found in the X7 are only found in the Taser brand. We found that only one source provided a particular product that will meet our reasonable expectation. So this qualifies as a special purchase under Indiana Code 522-10-8. Therefore, we did not need to formally solicit additional bids or proposals. I can now field any questions you have on the purchase or the product.
Any questions? I believe Councilor.
Anticipation of how long this equipment will last you? Is it another 15 years or?
It should be another 15 years. It is the newest and I would say the latest and greatest that they've come out with. One of the biggest improvements they have, the current Taser we have has a single cartridge. It has a single shot that we can do with that, single deployment of that weapon. The new Taser has 2 different probes, which also have varying ranges on it. So if the officers are inside a building, rather than outside, they can pick which probe will be deployed first.
Counselor Culp agreed to test this new equipment, correct?
It's so funny.
Great.
Thinking the same thing. I'm gonna test it on the president, right?
Oh, wait a minute.
There you go.
Never mind, that backfired. Well, if no other questions, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second from Counselor Choi. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The purchase is approved with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Right, thank you.
Cabinet, you can stay up there. We've got, next up here is ZPD Flock Safety License Plate Reader, Single Source Special Purchase.
All right, I'll try to read this statement a little better than the first one.
Oh, no problem.
After a lengthy research process starting in January, it was determined the Flock Safety license plate readers are the best fit for Zionsville, and the technology is not located in other programs. Therefore, no additional formal quotes were obtained, although numerous other programs and prices were explored. We consider the compatibility with the equipment proposed, and because we found that only one source provided a particular product that will meet our reasonable requirements, this qualifies for special purchase under Indiana Code 522-10-8. Therefore, there was no need to formally solicit additional bids or proposals. I will now field any questions you have with this particular product.
I understood the prior, the taser a lot better as far as, it offered things that other tasers didn't. Explain this one a little better to me.
So what this is the beginning of the year, we started looking at a whole bunch of different products for license plate readers, from stationary mounted ones, which is this system here. It's a stationary mounted license plate reader, and also license plate readers that would be mounted to patrol vehicles while the officer's driving, would be reading the plates in front of that officer. And a cost benefit analysis of that, we really found the mounted ones to be the most beneficial, where the officers can still utilize the data as they're working on all these cameras that are mounted out there, but also for an investigative standpoint on the back end. These cameras, they will store the data for 30 days, and then the data will be automatically deleted out of there. But what the investigators will do with that is if they have leads or for something they're looking for, they can go into the system and look for specific things in that data there that can help them with their investigation.
And no other product will do all that?
No product that we found. We currently have the utility product as our body worn camera systems. We explored their product, which is a vehicle mounted one, a good product, but it just didn't have the fit that we wanted here in Zionsville.
How many cameras are we looking to purchase?
We're looking to purchase 10 cameras, and these will be put on the main veins coming into Zionsville. So all the main veins coming in from Zionsville Road, Ford Road, Oak Street, and so on.
30 days doesn't seem like a lot of time to be automatically deleted. I mean, I feel like certain cases could come up, months later, and you'd want to go back and have some information about, what may have happened.
Absolutely, that's a very valid question, and I believe they came to that 30-day notice, one for data storage. We heard about the amount of vehicles that passed on each of the roadways each day. So one of these, the product here, in addition to just capturing the license plate, it also is using artificial intelligence when it's looking at that. So it's looking at the taillights of the vehicle, and it's looking at the color of the vehicle. And so it can say, a stolen vehicle just entered Zionsville at, let's say, Ford and 96 area, somewhere down there. It's a red Mustang, something like that, with this plate here. Then officers can go ahead and work that information there. But it is capturing an image of the back of the vehicle only and the license plate of that vehicle. So, and then I think on the other side of it, there are some privacy concerns as we're not trying to turn it into something where we're logging where everybody goes all the time. It's not a big brother state. I know that was brought up in the past also. So it does have the information there. If we have a major crime, we can start looking and working that information.
I have a few questions. You're going to install 10 of these. Do they record speed?
They do not.
Okay. And then, so we had I believe we had a murder not too long ago, maybe in the last year and a half, 2 years. Is this something that will help with cases like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So any case at all that comes up, if we were looking for, if you remember a few years ago, we were looking for a Impala vehicle. We can go through and we can search and say, hey, I want to see all the Impalas, red in color, that were in our area in the past 30 days. And that will give those investigators that starting point to really start looking and start narrowing down suspects or potentially to where to look, so it kind of guides them and gives them somewhere to look. Even a hit and run accident like that, if you say it's a blue truck with a Y in the license plate, they can Google, it's almost like a Google search, so they can look for a Y in the plate and a blue truck model, and they can start looking. So it gives them a starting point and saves a lot of time on the investigators.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question. So is the reason they can't keep the data past 30 days because it's not cloud-based, or it's just because it's so...
It's cloud.
Oh, it is cloud-based.
It's cloud-based, and I don't know if it's a mix between data storage and also privacy concerns.
Okay. Yeah, I talked to Chief Spears about this a while ago. I really like it. It's a great idea.
Go ahead.
So in your proposal, you've got, it basically looks like $125,000 of this is subscription fees over a 5-year period. They're giving you the equipment for free for a 5-year subscription fee?
That is correct. So the equipment is the cameras, is the fee to store it, and the repair and the maintenance, and it's all gone through legal. They've checked the legal terms and conditions there to make sure the warranties are up to par and where we want it. That's going to work best for the town and the police department.
What happens in years 6 through 10 or 10 through 15? Is the subscription fee ongoing then past this, or at 5 years we get the equipment?
No, that is correct. It's an ongoing fee. So we can sign a contract for a 5-year contract, and we lock in that fee, or lock in this fee for 5 years. So it will not go up until it comes back up again in 2025 if it's approved. So one of the very interesting things, if I could just interject, is homeowners association, businesses, school corporations, whoever wants to, they have a lower grade camera that is not for the volume that a regular traffic camera would be, that they can add and they can purchase at a private level. They won't receive that information, but that information will dial into our system there. So if there's a neighborhood and their HOA says, hey, I'd really like to have one of these monitoring traffic coming into the neighborhood, they can purchase one of these, and their fee for a private company or private corporation getting these are $2,000 a camera. And that's completely optional, but that's their option they do, and that's a benefit that we can provide.
Yes, sir. Will these be labeled around town, or are they, like with a sign that says this system?
They're not labeled. They get mounted to, I don't know if you can see, I think we sent these out. I'm not sure if everybody has them. They get mounted to street lamps. They can get mounted to a variety of different things. They can be standalone out there. We try not to make them too much of an eyesore.
Captain, if these are reporting every car that's coming into Zionsville, is that data, once anonymized, that can be provided to Mr. Lance or the DPW standpoint from a traffic count scenario, so he can do better planning in terms of road traffic, both in terms of total volume and volume by different times of the day? I think that'd be data that would be valuable to him. Obviously, you're not going to be providing detailed of what kinds of cars are coming in there, but I think it'd be helpful to know from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., we've got this kind of road traffic on Zionsville Road, and just something you two can maybe talk offline, but could be something valuable to the town once we have that data.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll look into that. I don't have an answer for that now, but I'll get with the systems here.
Okay.
So.
I move to approve the.
Heather.
Well, I was just going to make a comment, I know, to Councilor Burke's question earlier. So there is a records retention schedule that's published by the Indiana State Archives, and it does recommend that after 30 days, you would destroy this kind of surveillance video. So I just wanted to follow up that that's the state's recommendation as well, and what we're following here in this particular instance.
Thank you.
The big brother is watching.
Yeah. On that note, I heard an approval too. So is that approval from Councilor Choi?
Second.
Second from Vice President Trailer. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Very good. Purchase is approved. The vote is 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you for those. Next up, we've got OpenGov new financial management system. This is a single source special purchase. Tammy, if you're still there, I believe you and Andrew Jones may be speaking about this.
That is correct, Council President, council members. As you've heard me say in several of the meetings, that we have a need for updated technology to carry out the operations of the town, especially during COVID, where we want to encourage social distancing. So we have identified a partner, OpenGov, to provide the town with a cloud-based ERP system, which includes planning, budgeting, financial system, permitting, reporting, utility billing. It's basically a one-stop shop. And so that suite of products qualifies as a single source of supply because it's offered as a government specific. And the reporting component of it is especially important. When we were researching other systems, there was no one single easy way to report, and especially not from all of the different systems. So that's why we're really excited, not to just put data in a PDF on a website, but to give the users, the residents, council members, staff, the ability to look at the information in different ways and be able to control it and see and filter on what they're interested in. So you'll see pie charts, and you'll see if you want Excel based, then they have a table or a bar chart. So it's really unique in that aspect of it. And with the expense being unbudgeted in 2020 and directly related to the COVID health emergency, we did plan this, doing this research and everything, to use the CARES Act funding. The Indiana Finance Authority has given some additional direction and has changed a little bit the guidelines for submitting that CARES Act money. We're still getting clarification as this is a new change. So we may need to come before you again after we receipt in the CARES fund to additionally appropriate for these systems that are so integral to modernizing the town of Zionsville. But for now, we would just request that you recognize the single source of supply as well as the other statutes that this applies to for a special purchase in this council action. Andrew Jones, oh, and I do want to make another note that this was included, the costs that you see here were included in the 2021 budget. So after approvals, we will remove that from the 2021 budget to relieve that appropriation. And Andrew Jones from OpenGov is available now to give you an overview of the proposed purchase. And Andrew, you can take it from here, and we'll have questions at the end.
Great, thank you, Tammy, and ladies and gentlemen of the council. I really appreciate your time this evening. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just give you a quick overview. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
Got it.
All right. I'll just let this load here. Just give me 1 second. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Got it.
All right. Over the past couple of months, the OpenGov team has worked very closely with Tammy and many other of the Zionsville staff members to look at current technologies utilized throughout the town and processes that are being utilized currently. Throughout this evaluation, we found a few key areas in which a partnership with OpenGov can help the town maximize the effectiveness of current staffing levels and the current staff. And they really include a couple of key themes here. Number one would be bringing updated technology to Zionsville in order to more efficiently carry out the day-to-day operations of the town. This will really add efficiency and allow staff more time to focus on value-added activities. The second being moving from on-premise technology to cloud-based technology to help support teleworking, remote access, and social distancing guidelines for staff and residents. And then finally, making information more accessible and more meaningful to residents by adding context and narrative to information that's displayed. This will bring a greater sense of transparency to the town, not only the residents, but also to you, the council. And for those of you who are not aware of OpenGov, OpenGov was actually founded in 2012 with a mission to drive more effective and accountable government. And the way that we do that today is by providing 3 suites of technology to really drive efficiency and accountability for governments across the nation. Everything that we're going to do is going to be cloud-based and purpose-built for government, with a focus on ease of use for internal staff, as well as for transparency and interactivity to really increase community engagement. And since 2012, we have brought on over 2,200 governments, many of them being in the state of Indiana. So a few local communities you may see up here on the screen, including the city of Noblesville, city of Fishers, city of Westfield, and others, and really ranging in size. If you look at our governments across the country, ranging in size from small municipalities and special districts all the way up to large state agencies.
It's 8 o'clock.
And if you look at the suites of technology that we provide and that we're proposing to the town of Zionsville, it looks a little something like this. So as I mentioned, it's 3 suites of technology. From left to right would be our budgeting and planning suite, where you will be able to create your operating capital and personnel budgets, as well as create a digital and interactive online budget book. The second suite would be a full purpose-built government financial management suite, including core financials, HR and payroll, and utility billing. And then the third suite, being our permitting, licensing, and code enforcement suite, really allows any resident or contractor to submit any sort of form or application online through your website, pay for that application, and then it routes through an internal approval and workflow process that will really increase the efficiency in approving those applications and permits. And the 3 suites of technology all sit on top of what we call a reporting and transparency platform, which really centralizes all data across the town, allows you all to create role-based dashboards and reports for data-driven decision-making, and then take any of that data out and display it and share it with the public with context and narrative, as well as a full integrated survey functionality where you can gain feedback from your residents. And just by listening in today and some of the zoning issues that you guys are battling through, a good use of that in really gaining feedback from residents. So with that, that was a quick overview of who OpenGov is and how we've been working with Tammy, but I would open it up to any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any questions for either him or for Tammy?
So when it talks about $148,000 in professional service as the initial, one of the initial costs, what does that exactly come with?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you hear that?
Say the technology doesn't. Yes, can you still hear me?
You're coming in and out.
The counselor asked what the implementation fee, what does that cover? And I'll add to, is that a fixed fee or is that time and materials?
Yes, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Yes, so that is a fixed fee. And what that, we like to say the technology doesn't walk into town hall and turn itself on. So we've been working very closely in understanding the needs of not only the finance department, but also the planning and zoning department. We've put together a scope of work that includes all of the implementation, data migration from existing systems, staff, and ongoing support for turning the 3 suites of technology as well as the reporting and transparency platform on and training all of the department staff on the technology.
Follow-up question, please. Councilor Garrett, I look towards you on things like this, much like you look towards me on healthcare related issues as to the reasonableness of this kind of cost, and because it looks really high to me, but I don't know anything about this.
Well, it looked low to me, so. I mean, if you're talking about an ERP system that's running effectively your entire organization, these things can run into the millions of dollars. So it didn't disturb me to see those kind of numbers coming through.
I was thinking the same thing.
My surgery bills, on the other hand, though, we got to talk about those.
I can help you with anesthesia.
You don't want to go without it.
Give you a discount on the gas.
Just a quick comment. I've used, as a contractor, I've used OpenGov in Fishers, and it's really a great system that I've worked with. It takes a little bit of time to understand as a contractor, working with a computer, but overall, once you understand it and the process, it's really easy to pay for your permit and move on down the road. So I'm really excited to see Zionsville potentially come to the 21st century with some technology like this. So I'm excited. I think he's smiling behind that mask over there, and a big smile from our planner. So thank you.
Tammy, I mean, this should give us much better reporting too, from accountability compared to what we get today, even looking at things like claims. They're running off antiquated systems, so I think that'll be good for all. All right, any other questions or take a motion?
Make the motion to approve.
Second. Who's the approval? Is that you, Councilor Melton? Go ahead, Councilor Blunkett, sorry. It's hard to hear back here. A second for Councilor Cole. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The purchase is approved with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Look forward to seeing some of the results here. Last new business item, this might be a record. Item K for ZFD. This is the Knox Emergency Management System. This is a single source special purchase. Deputy Chief Frost, who I don't see here. Is he? He's online. Oh, there he is. Hi, Josh.
Hello, everybody. Council President and councilors, I just wanted to take a quick moment to introduce this. You should have gotten the formal request, but what this is we're asking for an approval to upgrade the current system we have. We're currently operating with the Knox Key Secure 3B system, which is being sunsetted, which will go away. And this is the new system that replaces it. It also provides for us a level of service where we can have the non-destructive access with our mutual aid partners through the e-cores, which is an electronic key system. It doesn't do away with our mechanical keys, but it's a system that can support both functions. That's it. That's it in a nutshell.
Very good. Questions on this purchase? All right, I'll make a motion to approve since I know it's me.
Second.
Second from Councilor Melton. There we go. I was ahead of you in the last one. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, purchase is approved with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you, Deputy Chief Frost. Amy, do you have another matter just to note real quick?
Oh, I do. When I passed down here, actually I can pass them down now. As you know, over all these virtual meetings, sometimes it's been challenging trying to get everybody's signatures. I still have the claims that were approved at the September 8th meeting and the September 21st meeting, and I did not get all of your signatures, so I'm going to pass those down to get those missing signatures.
Very good. Any councilors have any other matters? And we'll make a special thanks to Amy and the staff here for letting us get set up for meeting in person. It's much better to be seeing people, even if I can't hear them very well, at least seeing everyone.
I do want to, just one thing, I'm trying to remember the dates, but on October, you won't recognize my face. So because during the recognition of the fire department and police department back in May, in Firefighters Day and Policeman's Day, that we were in a pandemic and really not able to recognize it, I decided to celebrate their efforts on October 22nd through the 25th, treating them to, so that they all know that they'll get a treat at Scoop, because ice cream makes everybody happy.
That's true, especially ice cream at Scoop.
Celebration of their efforts and an acknowledgement of their service. So just want to let you guys know that. I talked to the fire chief and the police chief, and so we'll get that out to you.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Okay, we've got approval of claims. Any questions or anything in claims? We'll make a motion to approve then.
Second.
Second from Councilor Culp. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Claims are approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Who would like to make the motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Counselor Plunkett? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The next regular town council meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 19th, 2020 at 7:30 a.m. Determination of the need of a solely electronic meeting will be evaluated prior to the meeting, although I fully expect this to be here in person. And notice will be posted in compliance with the Indiana open door law. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Good meeting.